The invitation arrived not on paper, not even as a message, but as a gleaming holographic envelope that pulsed with the family crest. A twisting Ouroboros coded in platinum light. It hovered above Alex's kitchen counter as if it owned the space, scanning the room in quiet superiority. Alex stood there in their apartment, arms folded, sipping a glass of mineral water. The envelope had been sitting unacknowledged for 2 days, reshaping itself every hour into something more insistent. At first it glimmered like a flame, then it morphed into a whispering mouth repeating, "Family. Reunion, urgent now." On the 3rd day, it projected Chloe's voice directly into the air. "Alex, please, it's been years. Just come tonight. We need you. I need you." The voice cracked with rehearsed vulnerability. Alex tilted their glass, watching the reflection of the shifting hologram. "Need me for what? Another performance? Another stage where I'm the clown they can mock?" They considered deleting it. One swipe of the wrist and the whole projection would vanish, gone like every other message they'd ignored over the years. But curiosity gnawed, and curiosity was always Alex's weakness. Besides, something in Chloe's tone was different, not the haughty, dripping superiority of a golden child. This was desperation. Alex tapped the hologram. "Accept." The Montrose spire rose like a dagger of glass through the smog layer, its observation decks wrapped in neon advertisements that bent around the curvature of the building. Inside, the banquet hall was a temple to excess. Translucent walls displayed live feeds of the city below, skyscrapers flickering like circuit boards. Servers in chrome-laced uniforms glided silently, carrying trays of engineered delicacies. Meats spun from protein printers, wines fermented in zero-gravity tanks. Alex entered through a side corridor, their shoes soft against the carbon fiber flooring. They hadn't seen this family in 5 years, and stepping back into their curated world felt like returning to a stage play where every role had been recast except their own. Clothes shimmered with reactive threads that displayed status rankings in real time, investor scores, follower counts, social credit ratings, scrolling subtly across sleeves and lapels. The Montroses loved that kind of visibility. Every number was a weapon. Alex wore none of it, just a simple charcoal jacket and matte boots. No status feeds, no vanity projections. That choice alone would be interpreted as provocation. At the long dining table, faces turned, first curiosity, then disdain. "Look who crawled back from the wastelands," sneered cousin Brianna, her lapel broadcasting a 4.9 influence index like a neon medal. "Surprise security let you in," muttered Trevor, another cousin, his wristband flashing constant updates from his crypto portfolio. Alex gave them a polite nod, suppressing the urge to roll their eyes. The more they bit their tongue, the more their silence unnerved the family. At the head of the table sat their parents, Gerald and Marianne Montrose, perfectly preserved in artificial youth treatments. Marianne's cheekbones gleamed under the ambient light. Gerald's eyes had the faint glow of ocular implants that could analyze financial data in real time. "Alex," Marianne said, standing as though introducing a visiting dignitary she wasn't sure she approved of. "It's been far too long." "By design," Alex replied evenly. A murmur rippled around the table. Trevor smirked. Brianna nearly spat her wine. Marianne pressed on. "Nevertheless, we're glad you came. Tonight is important." Alex slid into a chair midway down the table. They could feel the power dynamics instantly. Chloe on Marianne's right, radiant in a gown that shifted colors with her heartbeat. The cousins grouped together like jackals. Alex positioned carefully in no man's land. The first half hour was ritualistic humiliation disguised as small talk. Cousins bragged about new sponsorship deals, patents, algorithm tweaks. Every detail designed to remind Alex they'd been cut off, exiled, left behind. Alex answered sparingly, offering little, a smile here, a raised eyebrow there. Silence as armor. Finally, Gerald cleared his throat. His voice had the weight of authority programmed into it, deepened by his voice modulator implant. "We've brought you here for a reason," he said, resting his hands on the table. "It's about your sister." Chloe's eyes immediately filled with tears, perfectly timed, Alex noted. She placed a trembling hand over her glass. "Alex," Marianne began softly, "your sister is in trouble. She made some mistakes. The market turned against her, circumstances beyond her control." Trevor snorted into his drink. Brianna hid a smirk. "So much for family solidarity," Alex thought. Gerald continued. "The debt has reached considerable levels, 260,000 credits. The number hung in the air like a live wire. Guests at nearby tables glanced over, catching the word debt and filing it away for gossip. Alex leaned back, eyes flicking to Chloe. Her tears glittered, but the hand that clutched her wineglass was steady. Performance, not collapse. "And you want what exactly?" Alex asked. Marianne's voice sweetened into poison. "You've done well enough for yourself, haven't you? You bought a house, something modest. Sell it and we can settle Chloe's debt. It's the least you can do. After everything we've given you." The table erupted with supportive nods, murmurs of yes, family must sacrifice for family. Alex's jaw tightened. There it was, the betrayal disguised as duty. Chloe sniffled, finally speaking. "Alex, I know we haven't been close, but please. This isn't just about me, it's about us, our reputation. Do you know what people are saying? That the Montroses can't even protect their own." "Protect," Alex repeated. Interesting choice of word. "You owe us," Trevor snapped. "You walked out, let everyone think you'd failed, and now you're too proud to help?" "Unbelievable," Brianna leaned forward, voice dripping contempt. "Do you even have 200,000 credits, or did you just scrape enough to buy some little box outside the city?" The laughter that followed was sharp, rehearsed. Alex let it wash over them, sipping water calmly. "They think I'm still small, invisible, dependent." Inside, their pulse was steady. They have no idea. The door at the far end opened, letting in a newcomer. A tall man, early 30s, dark hair, suit cut sharp but not ostentatious. His lapel glowed with nothing. No ratings, no projections, a deliberate blank slate. Alex noticed him instantly, not because of his appearance, though he carried himself like gravity bent differently around him, but because he looked at Alex first. Not Marianne, not Gerald, not Chloe. Alex. "Ah," Marianne said quickly, flustered. "This is Ethan Vale. He's a guest of Brianna's." Brianna flushed, adjusting her gown. "Yes, Ethan invests in Frontier Tech. We met at the Helix Summit." Ethan gave a polite nod to the table. "Pleasure to meet the illustrious Montrose family." His eyes flicked back to Alex with a glint of amusement, as if he'd already caught the tension thick in the room. He took a seat across from Alex. Their eyes met briefly, and in that instant, something unspoken sparked. A recognition of outsiders in a room full of pretenders. Dinner resumed, but the rhythm had changed. Ethan occasionally asked questions, sharp, intelligent, never fawning. He teased Trevor about his obsession with portfolio displays. He asked Chloe how her latest venture collapsed so spectacularly. His tone was courteous, but the subtext cut like a scalpel. Each time, Alex caught his glance, the hint of a smirk, the almost conspiratorial air. At one point, Brianna tried to elevate herself, boasting about a new clothing line coded to broadcast mood. Ethan leaned back. Ethan. Fascinating. But mood can be faked, can't it? What's more impressive is authenticity. Harder to engineer, don't you think? His eyes lingered deliberately on Alex as he said it. Alex raised a brow, lips curving ever so slightly. "Careful, Ethan. Around here, authenticity is considered a design flaw." A few cousins sputtered. Trevor scowled. Ethan's grin widened. For the first time all evening, Alex felt the faint thrill of amusement, like someone else finally understood the absurdity of it all. Gerald, sensing loss of control, slammed his palm against the table. "Enough games! Alex, will you do your duty or not? Your sister is drowning. We cannot allow this family's reputation to sink with her." Alex met his gaze steadily. "You disowned me 5 years ago, remember? Cut me off, declared me a failure, erased me from the family records. Why am I suddenly family again now?" Silence. The words landed like punches. Marianne tried to recover. "Because you are blood. And blood must sacrifice for blood." Ethan chuckled softly, low enough only Alex could hear. It was the sound of someone appreciating the hypocrisy laid bare. Chloe burst in, voice trembling with perfectly measured anguish. "Alex, please! Don't make this about the past. I'm your sister. I'm begging you." Tears streamed now, smudging her reactive makeup into shimmering streaks. To the untrained eye, she looked broken. To Alex, she looked like an actress nailing her scene. Trevor added fuel. "If you cared about us at all, you'd sell that tiny house and prove you're not the selfish brat we always knew." The table pressed in like a tribunal, voices layering, accusations, guilt, manipulation. Alex sat in silence, letting it build. Inside, their chest burned with memory. The night 5 years ago when Gerald announced Alex would not inherit, when Marianne called them ungrateful, when Chloe smirked and said, "Guess you'll have to make it on your own." They had. Every insult, every dismissal had been fuel. And now here they were, all of them circling like vultures, assuming Alex still had nothing, still weak enough to bend. Alex's fingers tapped lightly against the stem of their glass. A calm rhythm. When they finally spoke, their voice was level. "I see," Alex said. "So this dinner wasn't about reconciliation. It was about extortion." Gasps. A few nervous laughs. Marianne's face hardened. "Alex, that's not—" "It is," Alex cut in, "and I won't do it." The table froze. Chloe's tears halted mid-streak. Trevor's mouth fell open. Brianna fumbled for a retort. Only Ethan smiled, faintly, watching the scene like a man at a theatre. Alex leaned back, eyes cool. This is just the beginning, they thought. They still have no idea what's coming. Service drones whisked away empty plates and replaced them with a new spectacle. Courses that glowed faintly, as if they had been caught halfway between solid matter and dream. Transparent dishes bore trembling towers of synthesized seafoam that pulsed with bioluminescent light. Slivers of printed salmon gleamed under hovering holographic butterflies. The other guests immediately raised their wrists, angling smart lenses toward the food, posting in real time, competing for instant approval. Sleeves flashed with numbers, influence scores climbing, followers commenting, emojis streaming. The ritual was as much about broadcasting as eating. Alex didn't lift a wrist. Their plate remained untouched. The holograms dissolved in the air above it, ignored. They drank water, the glass clear and steady in their hand. Trevor noticed first. He leaned forward, the corner of his eyes flickering with ticker tape news from his implant. "What's the matter, Alex? Afraid no one will like your post?" Brianna laughed, stroking the glowing band on her arm where her influence score pulsed. "Or maybe Alex still has, 300 followers? Tragic." Their cousins chuckled, one-upping each other with little smirks. Alex nodded slightly, acknowledging the sting but refusing to rise. Silence was sharper than any defense. That was when Ethan spoke. He sat across the table, turning a glass of red wine slowly between his fingers. His voice came easy, smooth, but there was something deliberate under it. "Careful," he said lazily, though his eyes sparkled with mischief. "Alex may not post every plate, but I've seen their couch. On a penthouse rooftop, with the entire eastern docks glittering below. Try competing with that backdrop." The laughter died instantly. Trevor's fork clinked against porcelain. Brianna froze with her wine halfway to her lips. Alex turned their head, meeting Ethan's gaze. His expression was calm, but a dangerous amusement flickered there. "Ethan," Alex said softly, leaning in just a fraction. "Don't give away secrets. You'll ruin my underdog persona." The words were playful, but the air around the table tightened like a cord. Everyone stared. Chloe's eyes went wide, then narrowed. The remnants of her earlier tears vanished, replaced by something rawer, uglier. Her hand whitened around the stem of her glass. The silence stretched, long and heavy, the silence of people realizing the story they'd told themselves for years might not be true. "A penthouse," Trevor finally blurted, his voice cracking. "You've got to be joking." Ethan twirled his glass, never breaking eye contact with Alex. "No joke, there's even a rooftop garden." Postcard-perfect heads swiveled toward Alex. They sipped water, serene. "I don't like advertising where I live," they said evenly. "Not really my style." "Not your style," Brianna scoffed. "So all this time you've been hiding out in some tower while we thought you were—" "Nothing," Alex supplied gently. The cousins traded uneasy looks. Chloe's face flushed deep red. "So you've been lying to us?" "Pretending to be nothing while secretly playing rich." Alex's gaze slid to hers, steady, unflinching. "No one asked." "You preferred to believe the worst. It was easier." Their father's expression pinched, irritation breaking through his practiced calm. The glow of his eye implants pulsed as he pulled data, checking feeds, verifying. Their mother laid a manicured hand on his wrist, cautioning patience. But the cousins didn't hold back. "Bullshit," Trevor snapped. "Where would you even get the money?" "Whose handouts?" "My own," Alex replied simply. The single phrase landed like a blow. Around them, the gala hummed with its own rhythm, laughter from other tables, glasses chiming, music swelling from hidden speakers. But here, at this table, sound seemed to drop away. Now the weight shifted toward Chloe. Colour burned on her cheeks. She realized eyes were turning on her instead, the spotlight slipping from Alex's shoulders to hers. "This is impossible," she spat. "You've always been nothing. You'll always be nothing." But her voice cracked, shrill, betraying more than she intended. Ethan raised a brow. "Funny," he drawled. "From where I'm sitting, Alex is the only one here who doesn't need to prove anything." The sentence struck like a blade. Guests at nearby tables turned their heads. Alex allowed the faintest smile. Inside, their pulse raced, but it wasn't fear. It was a deep, simmering satisfaction. This was happening without effort, without shouting, without spectacle. Their mother leaned in, lips taut in a half smile. "Alex, don't play riddles. If you have resources, isn't it natural to help your sister? Isn't that what family is for?" The trap again, obligation, guilt, must. Alex held her gaze. "I thought family meant no conditions, not contracts." Ethan chuckled softly, raising his glass. "Now that's philosophy." Trevor leaned toward Chloe, loud enough for the table to hear. "Maybe if you were half as capable as your failure sibling, you wouldn't be begging for bailouts." Chloe's lips trembled. Her dress shimmered as her influence rating dipped in real time. Numbers fell, public whispers spreading faster than words. "This isn't fair," she choked. "You don't understand what I've been through." "I do," Alex said, voice level. "You made choices. Now you want me to pay for them." The bluntness carried more force than shouting. Chloe shrank, eyes glistening again, but this time the tears weren't staged. Ethan's gaze lingered on Alex. His hand brushed the table close, nearly touching theirs. Not contact, just suggestion. Electricity leapt in the space between. Alex shifted their fingers slightly away, but their heartbeat quickened. "You like this," Ethan murmured low, pitch so only Alex could hear. "I survive," Alex replied. "Sometimes it's the same thing," he said, the hint of a smile tugging his mouth. Then their father's voice cut sharp through the air. Enough! Alex, you will sell the house and settle this debt. This is not a request. It is your duty, every guess stilled. The expectation was clear. Alex would fold, as they always had, but Alex met his eyes and said, calm, precise. No. One word, but it cracked the room like lightning. Chloe gasped. Their mother's fork clattered against porcelain. The cousins gaped. Ethan leaned back, studying with open fascination, as though watching the climax of a long-awaited play. What did you say? Their father demanded, his voice unsteady. No, Alex repeated. I built my life without you. And I won't destroy it for you. A ripple of whispers moved outward through the gala. The Montrose name, once untouchable, now carried a fracture. Chloe shot to her feet, voice high and desperate. So you'd rather watch me drown than lift a finger? Alex's reply was quiet, final. After everything. Yes, she collapsed back into her chair, sobs tearing from her throat. This time no one rushed to soothe her. The cousins were too busy recalculating allegiances, watching Alex with new eyes. Ethan raised his glass in salute, lips curving. Now that's strength. Alex allowed themselves a small smile. Not victory, not yet, but the balance had shifted. The dinner unravelled quickly after that. Cousins bickered in low voices. Chloe sat crumpled, mascara streaking her cheeks, ignored. Their mother tried to redirect chatter to fashion, contracts, the usual shallow currents, but the words fell flat. Alex remained silent, poised, untouchable, and every time their gaze brushed against Ethan's, the spark was there. Mockery, admiration, something perilous and enticing. This was a different game now, and for the first time in years, Alex was playing from the winning side. The hall was restless, the surface hum of conversations carrying currents of speculation from table to table. Screens embedded in the walls played soft projections of the city skyline outside, towers glittering like a promise. But around the Montrose table, silence had hardened into something sharper. Alex could feel it pressing in. The expectation, the disbelief, the simmering outrage. Their father's jaw clenched, mother's hands folded tight enough for the nails to whiten. Chloe's sobs were raw now, stripped of performance, the streaks down her cheeks betraying the collapse of her mask. Alex held the stem of their glass with deliberate calm, fingers steady, the cool condensation soaking into their skin. They breathed once, then lifted their gaze, meeting each face in turn. I built my life without your help, they said, voice quiet but cutting through the air with more weight than a shout. I didn't need inheritance. I didn't need your approval or your conditions, and I will not sell my home to pay for choices that aren't mine. The words landed like a hammer in velvet. Brianna inhaled sharply. Trevor muttered a curse under his breath. Chloe let out a strangled noise, somewhere between a laugh and a sob. Their father leaned forward as if about to roar, but stopped himself, perhaps realizing that to lose control here, in front of so many witnesses, would be a wound no technology could edit from the feeds. Alex didn't give him time to regroup. They turned slightly, lifting the glass toward Ethan. A small smile tugged at their lips, not triumph, not cruelty, but something cooler, sharper. True success isn't about debt or status, they said, still watching Ethan, though their words carried across the table. It's about freedom, respect, and choosing who deserves a seat at your table. Ethan's eyes gleamed. He raised his glass in answer, the motion unhurried, intimate despite the audience. Crystal touched crystal in the smallest of gestures, and the sound rang louder in Alex's ears than all the whispers around them. The parents froze, caught between fury and something dangerously close to fear. They had relied on the narrative of Alex as dependent, disposable. Now that lie hung shredded between them. Chloe sputtered, clutching at the attention slipping like sand through her fingers. This is absurd. He's lying. He's always lied. He's nothing. But the cousins weren't looking at her anymore. They watched Alex with a cocktail of envy and reluctant awe. Some looked away quickly, as though afraid Alex might catch them staring. Trevor muttered, "Unbelievable!" But his voice lacked conviction. Brianna's projected influence score dimmed by a few points, the audience in the digital layer sensing the shift in loyalty, in perception. Power was as fragile as glass here, and Alex had just proven theirs was real. Their father finally spoke, voice iron wrapped in silk. "Do you realize what you're doing? You shame this family. You humiliate us before our peers." Alex met his gaze without flinching. "No," they answered. "You did that the moment you tried to make me pay for her mistakes." A nod toward Chloe, whose face twisted with rage and wounded pride. "You ungrateful—" Chloe started, but the words crumbled, choked off by the weight of the moment. She slammed her hand against the table, rattling silverware, but no one moved to comfort her. The cousins sat very still, their mother's lips pressed into a bloodless line. Even the ever-smiling drones hovering nearby seemed to hesitate, unsure if they should refill glasses or retreat. Ethan shifted subtly, brushing his knuckles against the table near Alex's hand. A near touch, nothing more, but the heat of it rippled through Alex's skin like a secret. He leaned just enough to let his words slide under the family's noise. "I think you just stole the room." Alex exhaled through their nose, steady, careful. "Rooms are easy. Holding them is harder." Ethan's smile curved, private. "Then let them try and take it back." Their father's voice rose again, trying to reclaim control. "You think because you manage some business, some property, that you're beyond us? You are nothing without this name." Alex's smile was almost kind. "That's where you're wrong." "I am exactly because I left this name behind." The cousins stirred, muttering, a ripple of scandal running down the table. Chloe's influence score plummeted another 10 points, the fall publicly visible, while Alex's feed, silent, private, glowed unseen. They hadn't posted a single image all evening, but already the digital currents shifted toward them. Authenticity outshone theatrics, even in this world built on branding. "Enough!" their mother snapped, but the command cracked. Her gaze darted toward the watching guests at nearby tables, toward the subtle recording lenses hidden in the architecture. Damage control was impossible now. Alex lifted their glass once more, not to their family, but to the larger room, to anyone watching. They didn't need a speech. They simply smiled, calm, as though none of this touched them. The act itself was louder than any declaration. They could not be rattled. Whispers multiplied. Admiration, jealousy, shock. It all swirled together, a current no one could dam. Chloe's voice trembled as she tried to strike back. "You think this makes you powerful? You think anyone here respects you?" Alex's gaze slid to her, steady, indifferent. "Respect isn't demanded, it's earned." The words were simple, but Chloe crumpled under them. She had lived her whole life trading on borrowed credit, projected glamour, family reputation. Now, in the space of a few breaths, Alex had revealed the hollowness beneath it. Ethan finally pushed his chair back, smooth and unhurried, then extended his hand toward Alex as though offering to guide them away from the wreckage. "I think we've stayed long enough," he said, his tone casual but his eyes sparking with amusement. Alex stood. The movement alone was a statement, calm, deliberate, unapologetic. The cousins' gazes tracked them like moths to a flame. Envy hung thick in the air. "You'll regret this," their father said, but the threat rang hollow. Alex's lips curved faintly as they looked back one last time. "I doubt it." The hall seemed to hold its breath as they walked away, Ethan falling into step beside them. Behind, Chloe's sobs fractured into fury. The parents' whispers turned frantic. The cousins whispered like gamblers recalculating odds. But none of it mattered anymore. The doors slid open, revealing the night beyond. Cool air touched Alex's face, clean and sharp compared to the suffocating heat inside. Ethan leaned slightly closer as they walked, his voice pitched low enough for only Alex to hear. "You just made the entire room jealous, including me." Alex let out a breath, half a laugh, half relief. "That wasn't the plan." "Plans are overrated," Ethan murmured, his shoulder brushing just close enough to promise more. The city lights stretched ahead of them, towers gleaming like distant constellations. For the first time in years, Alex felt the weight lift. They hadn't surrendered their home, their dignity, or their peace. They had walked into the lion's den and left not as prey, but as something far more dangerous, untouchable. Behind them, the family would scramble, clawing at what remained of their power, but the hierarchy had already shifted. And Alex, for the first time, didn't just survive. They chose. True value wasn't measured by sacrifices extracted or debts enforced. It was written in self-respect, in the quiet courage to stand firm, in the spark of connection that no amount of influence scores could replicate. They walked into the night with Ethan's laughter at their side and the future open before them, brighter than the city itself.